Roberto Parker, as he shares his over 35 years of experience in training athletes and helping people achieve their fitness goals. Now here's your moderator, Chris Whiting, with Coach Roberto.
Hey, welcome everybody to the Health Detective Podcast. Thank you.
Yay.
Yes. Yeah, that's the right reaction. I am excited to talk to everybody tonight, as I am every time we do this podcast, because I learn as much as you people do from the one, from the only, Coach Roberto Parker. Welcome, Roberto.
How are you doing this evening, guys?
Good. How are you?
Another day, another dollar.
Is it another dollar you're taking this week off, I thought?
I have other activities besides you, Chris.
You know what? I don't want to know what they are. I'm not even going to ask. What you do in your free time is your deal.
Yeah.
So we're actually off of working out with you this week. So for me, it's going to be very important to get some activity, but I know I won't be getting as much activity as I do when I go to your class. So it becomes doubly important for me to watch what I eat.
Right.
And I believe tonight you were wanting to talk a little bit about that. I know last week we talked a little bit about,
importance of breakfast.
Yeah. But this week we're going to look more at like plant-based versus animal-based nutrition, which I think is timely because, you hear about, I don't want to call them fad diets, but, a while back you heard all about Atkins. Then it became paleo, then keto. Then plant-based. Now the carnivore diet is something I hear all the time.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to dig into this and talk about some of the differences between plant-based and animal-based eating and how to approach it, what it does for you. So with all of that, I want to let you kick it off wherever you want to start with this.
Let me just start out by saying that I'm not a medical doctor, and I've said this many times in our podcast. There is no the way to do everything. And having said that, there is a distinct difference between plant-based and animal-based. I don't believe either should be done on a year-round, 12-month-a-year basis. Now, that's my professional opinion as a person who has studied functional nutrition. Everybody has their own metabolic footprint, fingerprint, or own biochemical individuality. And I had this discussion with you and James before you guys left the gym on Saturday. In my opinion, human beings are omnivores. Okay? We're not meant to be strictly herbivores or carnivores. We're somewhere in the middle. Now, depending upon the person, you might be a little bit more leaning towards the carnivore side. You might be a little bit leaning more towards the herbivore side. That's something that you have to find out on your own a little bit. Now, there are some ways we can do that more scientifically. There is a evaluation called the metabolic typing evaluation that I offer people, and it's about $75, and it's about 100 questions. It's not anything that's, you take blood or anything or urine or stool. You just ask a series of lifestyle questions, and based on your questions, you will determine, hopefully, what is your metabolic type. Now, there's a lot of things that feed into your metabolic type. Are you more anabolic or catabolic? Now, we've talked about this before. If you're more anabolic, that means you're building things up more in your body. You're not tearing things down as much. If you're more catabolic, that means you're tearing tissues down more.
What if you're more alcoholic? Where does that fit in?
That's a whole nother topic, my man.
Okay, we'll hit that one later. Sorry.
Okay. The days of wine and roses, starring Chris Whiting.
You're the expert on that.
But anyway, if you're more catabolic, you're tearing things down. If you're more anabolic, you're building things up, as in cellular tissue. Now, there's another way, based upon the type of a person you are. Either you're parasympathetic, which is more rest and digest oriented, or you're sympathetic, meaning that you're very, very adrenaline driven. That means you're always in fight or flight mode. That will also determine what type of food you need to eat, be it more plant-based, be it more animal-based. You follow me? I'm sorry, go ahead, Chris.
Do you tell the difference between those two, whether you're more like rest and digest or you're more active? Is that by lifestyle questions or is that a lab test?
It's mainly lifestyle questions, but there are ways by looking at your neurotransmitters in your body, such as dopamine, serotonin. You know, if you're more dopamine based, you're probably more what we call sympathetic, more fight and flight. If you're more serotonin based, serotonin based, you're going to be more rest and relaxation and digest. So there's ways of doing it. Now, having said that, if you're more parasympathetic or you are more anabolic, you can consume more animal-based foods without it adversely affecting you. If you are more sympathetic dominant, meaning you're more fight or flight, you should be consuming a little bit more veggies if you're more plant-based in your eating plan, so to speak. So yeah, that's one theory. Okay. Now, does that apply 100% to everybody? No, it doesn't. Nutrition can be a very complicated thing, as you probably figured out. I probably get more questions about nutrition more than anything else as a trainer. And I've studied a lot about nutrition in the last few years. It is complicated as hell sometimes because, like I said, you got to really dig deep to find out what is the best way for you to eat. But I can tell you this, human beings, as I said, we're not meant to just be strictly carnivores, and we're not meant to be strictly herbivores, meaning vegan vegetarianism. Now, let me explain the difference of vegan and vegetarianism, because there is a distinct difference.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Vegans typically don't like to harm animals. They don't want to eat anything that's probably even touches an animal. Vegetarians can still consume things like eggs and cheese and yogurts, cottage cheese, drink milk, because it doesn't really harm an animal, because you're just taking the egg away from the chicken, or you're making cheese out of milk or butter out of milk. So there's a certain type of vegetarians that will not even eat eggs or drink milk or eat yogurt or something like that. But for the most part, most vegetarians will consume dairy products, which are animal-based products, even though they're not. You don't have to kill the animal to get those. Right. So unless you consider it an egg, I guess before the chicken can hatch. But for the most part, vegetarianism is not quite as extreme as veganism. Vegans won't touch anything that even remotely touches an animal. Okay, now carnivores, that's where you just eat pretty much all meat. Okay, now I'll tell you, my son Wyatt, when he was training for the NFL, went through about a 3-month program, and I think he took out about 3 weeks out of his training cycle where he went all carnivore. Now, he had tremendous gains in his strength doing that. So really, yeah. Now, if you're gonna be tearing down a lot of muscle, like a lot of heavy weightlifting, powerlifting, going out chopping down trees with an axe or something like that for 8 hours a day, then yeah, you should be consuming more protein. Now, here's the thing. Essential amino acids. This is important. There are 20 amino acids that we need to survive. Okay. 9 of those we have to consume through food. The other 11 are made in our bodies intrinsically. But 9 of those we have to consume extrinsically. The best source, the most complete source, the most comprehensive source. Yeah. I hate to tell you this, vegans and vegetarians, it is animal-based.
Interesting.
Now, you can obtain those essential proteins or amino acids via plant-based, but it takes a lot of consumption. It takes a lot of mixing and matching to accomplish that. And it's not easy to do. For example, a gorilla is a herbivore. But gorillas are very strong, though, aren't they?
Oh, yeah, they are.
Okay. I was reading some research for this podcast tonight. A gorilla will spend most of its time during the day foraging and eating mainly leaves and plants and tree bark. But what happens is that a lot of that cellulose or fiber that they're consuming turns into fatty acids into their system. So a gorilla, for example, will spend most of his day eating, foraging, eating, foraging, eating, foraging, eating.
I'm detecting a pattern. Okay.
So if that's the way you want to live, just foraging and eating all day as a vegetarian or more so a vegan, knock yourself out, because that's really what it's going to take. You're going to have to consume a hell of a lot of leafy green fruits, produce, in order to accomplish getting all those essential aminos that you need. Whereas you could have just one slice of meat, and that would, in some cases, meet your essential needs for the day in terms of those essential acids.
Now, you say that's so tough. One slice of meat.
Okay.
Question on that though.
Okay.
So you said Wyatt did that for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
When you're doing the carnivore diet, are you literally just eating meat?
Absolutely. That's as far. I've never done the carnivore thing myself. But yeah, as far as I know and what I've read, yeah, you're just strictly eating meat. Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, you're just now you might be eating things like eggs, possibly, or cheese, but it's all animal based. There's no plant based whatsoever.
Wow. So do you need to take supplements, you think, to get vitamins and
now here's the one thing meat will not give you. Meat does not have fiber.
Okay.
Fiber technically is not really a macro or micronutrient, but they have found that fiber, especially in our industrialized way of the way we live, we need fiber in order to clean out our system and have good poops. Okay, so we need good fiber. Let me say this before I forget about it.
Yeah.
Every micronutrient that you have, I'm probably going to miss some here. Vitamin A, vitamin B, D, C, E, K, B12, B6, copper, molybdenum, magnesium. You can obtain every single one of those. I'm talking protein fats too now. Protein fats. You can consume every single one of those through consuming meat. Now, but here's the catch.
Okay.
If you're going to if you need to really beef up on a lot of those micronutrients, like a lot of the zinc, the copper, the magnesium, the vitamin C, you're going to have to consume organ meats.
Liver.
Like liver, kidneys, tongue, eyeballs.
I'm out.
Okay. You have to consume those, but you can obtain every single one of those by animal consumption. Now, let me ask a question. Before the Eskimos became civilized, and you know where they lived, in the North Pole.
Yeah.
In the wintertime, it might be 50 below. In the summertime, it's probably 20 below.
So you're not getting a lot of plants.
What kind of vegetation did those Eskimos eat?
I'm guessing none.
Zero.
Yeah.
Zero. Okay? And Eskimos, before they came in contact with civilized food and way of living, they lived very healthy, flourishing, long lives.
Oh, yeah. I saw Nanook of the North when I was a kid.
Okay?
They got everything from the walruses and seals and stuff.
I mean, they eat everything. They eat the heart, they eat the lungs, they eat the kidneys. And you know what they do with the muscle meats? A lot of the old Eskimos, they take the muscle meats that we consider steaks, hamburgers, brisket, roast beef, and they give it to the dogs.
No way.
Yes way.
That's all the good stuff.
Yeah, that's what they do, partner.
Wow.
They eat the organ meats, and they would give the muscle meats to the dogs.
Maybe walrus brisket isn't so good. I don't know, but
I don't know.
I've never tried that. That's interesting.
Because the American Indians were the same way now.
With
the American Indians, they'd kill a buffalo or a bison, I guess, and they'd eat everything. And of course, they'd use the skin for blankets and use the bones for tools and weapons and building their teepees. But they would take an animal and they would strip that. They would use practically every inch every cell within the animal for some form of survival.
Wow.
Okay. So organ meats, yes, are disgusting by American standards, but you can obtain every single macro and micronutrient, probably with the exception of carbohydrates. And by the way, we can survive without carbohydrates.
Wow.
We cannot survive without protein and without fat.
There you go. Heard it here first.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you were, let me ask you another question, Chris.
Please.
If you were to get stranded on top of Mount Everest, 14,000 feet above sea level, you're stranded for, let's say, 2 weeks.
Oh, my.
Would you survive eating plants, eating dandelions, or killing a rabbit to survive?
I'm going to guess, just based on the way this conversation has gone, that it's going to be the rabbit over the dandelions.
You're exactly right. Why? Because that rabbit has
all the micronutrients I need.
Protein, yes. The
Fats.
Proteins and the fats.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. Now, there are some animals and mammals that are herbivores, like cows. They have molars. They don't have canine teeth. Even some of the old dinosaurs were I believe it's called the brontosaurus or something. They were just all plant eaters. Elephants, I believe, are plant eaters.
Yeah,
bears,
as far as I know.
Yeah, bears are omnivores. Okay, gorillas are herbivores. Okay. Lions, tigers. I'm not going to say bears, and oh my.
Oh my.
But lions and tigers are more canine driven, and their digestive tract is only about the length of their entire body. So when they eat another animal, because they're strictly carnivores, they eat it and they digest it real quickly. Whereas herbivores tend to chew and chew and chew and chew, like getting back to the gorilla, and chew and chew all day long.
Fascinating.
Now, getting back to modern day.
Okay, let's do that.
You can be more. You can go a 60-40 ratio, plant, animal, 70-30, even 80-20, or vice versa. You can go 80-20 animal, plant, 70-30 animal, plant, 60-40 animal, plant. But somewhere within that ratio, you can even go a period of time, and this is where the cycling comes in here. You can go a period of time where you just eat maybe all plant-based. Let's say you do it for a month. Because you want to reset your metabolism, because you want to get a good cleansing. But I don't recommend doing that for the rest of your life. You can go a period of time where you just cycle in carnivore for a period of time. You can cycle in a plan where you just go, let's say, keto, which is just pretty much all maybe animal-based, and maybe some green fibrous vegetables. Okay, you can cycle that in there. So, which is why I sent that PowerPoint that.
Uh-oh, did we lose you, Roberto?
He looks a little frozen up there.
He does look frozen, or he's really thinking right now. Yeah, look at him staring off there. Hey, while we're waiting for Roberto to unfreeze, I will mention, if you have a question on any of this, feel free to give us a call at 913-735-0060, 913-735-0060, and we can take your questions on plant-based versus animal-based, on cycling, through different types of approaches to eating. So, you know what's interesting, Paul?
Are you there?
Roberto?
There he is. Roberto? I thought I had him on the phone.
Oh. Did we lose him?
Yeah, he'll call back again. You can always give us a call anyway, because just do the opposite of what I do. You're still going to find the right answer. Roberto, you there? Roberto? Roberto, I can hear you.
I can't hear him.
Hello, Roberto. Can you hear me? There we go. Roberto, can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you, man. Every time I do the Zoom, man, my computer shuts off. I don't know what the hell is going on.
Well, it's you're giving so much information that technology just can't handle it.
Yeah.
Yes. Anyway, let's finish it up here, guys, and pull up that slide I sent you, Paul. If you
got it. You got it.
Yeah, I want to see this.
You guys see it now?
It's coming up. There.
Okay. And I'm going to try to get back online here as I'm talking to you.
Okay, we've got it up here.
Okay, now this is a mock example of a woman who's about 40 pounds overweight. She is premenstrual because that plays a factor, especially for women, if they're pre or post-menstrual. And what I'm doing here, I'm cycling. There's about 4 different phases. You know, if you go to the next page there,
Okay.
and there should be a chart. You see it?
Yes.
Okay. There should be eat less, exercise less, eat more, exercise more.
Mm-hmm.
Now, each one of those, you see various ways of training and what they're eating, their macronutrients, how much carbs, how much protein, how much fat, if it's more animal-based, and if it's more plant-based ratios.
Aha.
As you scroll through that, and hopefully the viewers can see it, you can see that with each one of those phases, in the top left corner, I believe it says exercise less, and
Yeah. So it's Roberta. Let me, since I can see it, I don't know if you can right now, but top left corner you have eat more, exercise less.
I like that.
Oh, eat more, exercise less. Yes, you're right. Okay, now if you look at that, that's typically a phase where you don't want to spend a lot of time.
Oh.
Oh boy.
52 years
Okay.
is probably too long.
But
52 years is probably too long. Okay.
yeah. Anyway, you want to spend probably only 1 week or less in that phase, okay?
Uh-huh.
And if you notice that it has about a 50-50 ratio, I believe, of plant versus animal-based.
It
Correct?
does. Yep.
Okay. Now you go over to the top right. What does it say there?
It says eat more, exercise more for muscle gain.
Okay, now that's the phase where you want to spend time in terms of, okay, now I want to tone up. I maybe want to put on a few pounds of muscle. So now we're going to increase the animal.
Uh-huh. Yep. We're at 60-40 animal to plant.
Right, animal to plant. And also look at the carb ratio there, the protein fat carb ratio. That's probably around 30 to 40% carbohydrates.
Yeah, it says 25 to 30 on that one.
Right. Okay. Now, for a female, for this particular female, that is the first 2 weeks of her cycle, her menstrual cycle. During that period of time, that's when her estrogen levels are highest.
Okay.
And estrogen is a mild form of testosterone because during that period of time, you're going to have the most gains in terms of burning fat and gaining muscle.
Oh, wow.
Okay? So that is why I up the carb intake a little bit. But I'm talking healthy, fibrous carbs. I'm not talking about, stuff like donuts and bagels. I'm talking about fibrous fruits and vegetables.
Okay. Yeah. Not the fun carbs, the boring carbs. Gotcha.
Okay, now it should say exercise less and eat less, correct?
Yep. Exercise less, eat less for fat loss says 80 to 20 plant to animal ratio. So a lot higher on the plant side with this.
Right, and during that period of time, the person looking at the menstrual cycle, that's probably going to be about the last 2 weeks of her cycle.
Okay.
So that makes her estrogen levels are lower. So we're going to not exercise, we're not going to eat quite as much carbohydrates, and we're going to, what does it say for the animal plant ratio? I believe the plant...
80-20 plant to animal.
Okay, plant to animal is a little bit higher, see?
Yeah, yep.
Everything is all relative to your lifestyle, what you're doing in terms of exercise. And for a woman, a lot of it's also going to be based on her her menstrual cycle. If she's premenstrual, now if she's postmenopausal, that's a whole different dynamic.
Oh, okay. Oh, really?
Yeah.
Dang.
It's probably not as complicated for a guy because guys don't go through periods, although some people agree with that. But, you know, for men, it's probably a little bit simpler, even though men do go through andropause where they start losing testosterone, but it's not really on a week-to-week or month-to-month type of basis. So, anyway, now, in the very bottom left, what does it say there, Chris?
So the last one we haven't talked about is eat less, exercise more, and it's a 70-30 animal to plant ratio.
And now, see, exercise more, eat less, and that's more for if you want to get into more of your cardiovascular type training, you want to be more active. So, you know, that's if you want to do some fasting. Now, I forgot to talk about that. Intermittent fasting can be cycled in every single one of those categories because fasting plays a big part in this too, because fasting will help reset your metabolism in addition to the way you're eating.
Yeah, and we've touched on fasting. Are you talking intermittent fasting for, you know, several hours during a day, or are you talking a day or days at a time?
Okay, now that's a very good question because they're both different, but they're both important. Intermittent fasting, I recommend eating within a certain window of time between, I don't know, 9 to 3 o'clock, 9 a.m. to 3 o'clock in the afternoon, or 12 p.m. to 6 p.m. in the evening, or 2 p.m. to 8 o'clock in the evening, or something like that. You got to find out the window of time that's going to work best for you. Don't during the day, early, and then try to, okay, let's say you start at 9 in the morning, is your first meal, and your last meal is 3 o'clock, but your metabolism really doesn't adjust to that very well. It's not really built for that. So you say after 3 o'clock, I'm going to follow Roberto's plan, and I won't eat anything until tomorrow at 9 a.m. Well, you go home and you're starving. You can't sleep at night because you're, you know, just thinking about food. That's probably not the best time for you to eat during your intermittent fast. So you need to pick out a time of the day that's best for you to consume your meals.
Gotcha.
Now, long-term fast. Long-term fast, I recommend you do about once, you know, maybe once every 3 to 4 months. Some people maybe once a month, but for most people, probably once every 3 to 4 months. Do a good long-term fast, at least a day, 2 days. Some people even do 3-day fasting.
Oh my, that sounds awful.
There's another dynamic you can add to this.
Yeah. Well, and you know what?
Do something different. I'm talking long-term fast here.
Yeah.
Off the way you eat and be strictly a carnivore for maybe 3 or 4 days.
Oh, wow.
Or come off your fast and be strictly a vegetarian or vegan for 3 or 4 days.
So if I'm following correctly, you're talking fast for a day, maybe even up to 3 full days. And then when you come out of that, you go to one of these sort of all or nothing diets, whether it's carnivore or completely plant-based, for the next 2-3 days.
Yeah, if you really want to shock your system.
And what's the benefit of shocking your system like that?
You're resetting your metabolism.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, see me now?
Hey, there you are. There's that handsome face. All right. So can you see the PowerPoint up here now, Roberto? Oh, boy. Paul, I think we had him and we lost him.
Yeah, I never saw him back on Zoom.
Oh, you didn't? Yeah, he showed up.
There's something there.
Yeah.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Hey, we can hear you.
Okay.
Welcome back. Do you want to still share the document?
Yeah, keep it up for a second. I don't see your pictures, but I guess you can hear me. That's good.
Yeah, we can hear you. And you sound better on your headset than on the phone.
Okay. Okay, but anyway, yeah, if you want to do like a long-term fast for like a day, 2 days, 3 days, and by the way, when you're fasting, here are my rules on fasting. Fasting is not starvation. You can still have stuff like green tea, clear broth, like bone broth.
Mhm.
You can drink a little bit of coffee. Don't put any sugar or cream in it. Don't do that. Okay. Just, you know, you could even maybe have just, as long as you can keep it under a certain amount of calories, even just, I don't know, what's the best way I could put this? If you're going to have maybe just a small piece of fruit or something like that, just as long as you keep it under 50 or so calories. But basically, the best thing to consume is clear broth, green tea, some coffee, black coffee. That's the best way to do your long-term fasting.
Okay. And I had read that before too. Like as long as you're keeping around, you know, between 20 and 50 calories, you can have a little something.
Yeah. And come off that. If you want to try and just see how you feel. Come off the fast and do strictly carnivore for 3 or 4 days, or 2 or 3 days, or just 1 day. See how you feel. Or do a vegetarian or vegan and see how you feel. Don't do it for, you know, the next month, but just do it for a handful of days and see how you feel. You're going to reset your metabolism. And I guarantee if you do that, you find the right comfort zone for you, the right sweet spot for you. If a person is overweight, they're going to take a lot of weight off. If they're trying to reset their metabolism, they're going to be a lot better, because when you reset the metabolism, you're going to kill off a lot of bugs in your system. And right now, you know, we're still in the COVID-19 scare. So fasting is one of the best ways to weaponize your body against viral and bacterial infections.
Really?
Absolutely.
I would have thought it would make you more susceptible. That's really interesting.
No, because what happens is that you're not giving those bugs anything to feed on. Viruses and bacteria love starchy, sugary, processed crap in your system. They love that. Why do you think obese people are more susceptible to the coronavirus?
Because of their starchy, sugary,
and also because their immune systems are weaker, because all that weight weakens your immune system. Same thing with the elderly. The elderly are, because they're aging, because their bodies are atrophying, they're going through sarcopenia, you know, with bone loss and muscle loss, their susceptibility is higher because their metabolism and their immune systems are becoming weaker.
You mentioned earlier, if you go on the carnivore, you're not going to get fiber. So do you think you need to supplement with fiber if you're doing the carnivore diet?
You know, it wouldn't hurt you. You know, if you're doing a carnivore, the protocol of that might be not to eat anything like vegetables or fruit at all. Mm-hmm. But see, that's one reason I would not do a carnivore year-round, 12 months a year, because I believe that most Americans need good fiber. Because I think you mentioned Joe Rogan did the carnivore, and it kind of jacked up his gut for a few days, didn't it?
Yeah, he did it for an extended period, like a month or more. And for folks that know, Joe Rogan's one of our closest, fiercest competitors in the podcast world. But he did that carnivore diet for about a month, but he said it took him about 2 weeks to where his how do I put this delicately, to where his bowel movements were normal again. I guess they were very loose.
Right.
And
I believe it, because, you know, because he wasn't getting enough fiber in his system. And so that takes time to adjust, just like the keto. If you're doing a keto type of eating plan, you go through what we call the keto flu. The keto flu is when you, they call it hangry. You're hungry and you're angry. And sometimes it will affect your sleep too, because when you go to bed hungry or starving, normally you don't sleep very well.
True that. Yeah. And I have done keto before, and it is, those first several days can be pretty brutal. You're hangry, you're tired, you've got no energy, you just kind of feel blah. Oh, I wonder who's calling in.
I bet we can figure it out here. Come on. Hi, Roberto. Welcome to your show.
All right. Sorry about that again, man. We'll just finish up on the phone here.
Okay.
Yeah, all good.
You know, just kind of wrap it up about cycling here.
Uh-huh.
People are listening out there and listening to rebroadcast of this. I think what you're probably figuring out is that there is no magical way to do this.
Right.
Okay?
Again, we've
One way, because it's very multifaceted and multifactorial.
yeah. And just about everything we talk about ends up that there is just not a one size fits all. You can't say, follow these 5 steps and you're going to have perfect health, because it's different based on how your body metabolizes and your predisposition. So that's been one of my biggest learnings throughout this series of podcasts. And it sounds like it's true again.
Yeah. And, just look at that chart I sent to you guys. Now, that's just one example of about a 40-year-old woman who's about 40 pounds overweight. She's still premenstrual, and she's having problems with her weight, losing weight. That is the closest that I would come to. Now, that's kind of a hypothetical, but, there's other factors. But typically women in that particular area where they're having this problem, that is what I would recommend for someone with that type of scenario, type of background and demographic. We're going to switch between high fat, proteins versus carbohydrate, animal-based versus plant-based. Now, here's the thing. If someone really, really, really emotionally and spiritually, and maybe because of, I don't know, even religious reasons, they don't believe in killing animals, I respect that. And I would work with that person to do the best I could. We'll come up with a plan of action to come up with as much plant-based food as we can in order to meet all your nutritional needs. But I'm just going to tell you, if you're going to do it that way, you're going to have to spend a lot of money and have a lot of food in your kitchen and learn how to mix and match foods properly, because you won't get it going to a restaurant. That's for damn sure.
Yeah. And I know we're going to have to close up here in a minute, but I did get a question text in, Roberto. And it is, how should we go about getting the best sourced meats? So where do you look for quality, healthy meats?
Well, I mean, obviously grass-fed, cage-free chickens and wild-caught fish, that is the best source, but it is expensive.
Yeah.
And so I'm not going to tell people out there that really are on a tight budget, you got to buy grass-fed necessarily. But if you can find yourself someone who raises meat, like a farmer, and you know that farmer treats his animals well, feeds them well, doesn't give them all kinds of nitrosamines and antibiotics and everything else, put crap in them, then go to that source. And now I do know that, the best quality meat typically, I believe, are Angus in terms of beef.
Mm-hmm.
If you're into hunting, that's good also, because a lot of times wild-caught game is better than the stuff you're going to buy in the store, because the animals are out foraging, eating foods that are natural within their habitat.
Interesting.
Indigenous to the way they live their lives.
Mm-hmm.
Domestic animals are like human beings. They get more disease. They tend to overeat, or sometimes undereat, and because they're penned up, because they're not really living out in the wild like they're supposed to. Where if you go out and you shoot a deer or shoot an elk, let's say up in Montana, that animal's probably living a very wild type of life. They're foraging, they're like they should, they're moving around like they should, they're eating the right type of foods, they don't overeat. Wild animals don't overeat, and they don't overeat like human beings do. Domesticated animals will overeat. Wild animals will eat until they're full, and then they're done. They might store it away, but wild animals do not overeat.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, that's helpful. Hopefully for the texter that texts in, that's good advice they can put into practice. Now,
You find good quality stores also, stores that sell good meats, like, good old place like Whole Foods, Trader Joe's, Sprouts,
Mm-hmm.
stores that would, and that.
Gotcha. So the cycle that you showed us earlier, is that type of an eating plan something that you help people put together once, you've worked with them to determine how it's most beneficial for them to eat?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And putting together a chart like that, I just going to do it off the top of my head. I need to get valuable information from the person before I can do something like that for you.
Right.
Otherwise,
Right.
Otherwise, we're just blindly throwing darts at a dartboard and see what sticks. We got to sit down. We got to talk. We got to talk about your lifestyle. Talk about, are you more animal-based or plant-based? Talk about types of exercises. How often do you exercise? Talk about what time of day is best for you to eat. Talk about your top 10 foods, your top 10 worst foods. Talk about how do you feel after you eat certain meals. You have to document certain things. How many bowel movements a day are you having? We talked about that the last time because that's important. Because if I don't know that stuff, I can't really get deep down and take a deep dive into the type of program I can put together for you. Otherwise, I can just say, well, just go do keto then, see what happens. Well, that's not very professional of me to do that.
Right.
Just go do a plant-based diet, see how that works. I wouldn't do that. I want to find out more about the individual, and based on what I find out through sitting down and asking questions, through lifestyle assessment, and possibly through doing some lab work, if you can, work into your budget. And I know we talked about this last week kind of jokingly regarding you. If you want to find out what type of bacteria you have in your gut, because that also plays a part as to whether you should be more animal-based or plant-based. Depending on the type of bacteria in your gut, the only way to find that out is to do it.
I figured you were going to go there with that one. Yeah. Yeah, I guess you got to look at the output of the gut to figure out what's in there. So
that's a big, huge factor in helping me out put together one of those charts. And also with a woman, if she's premenstrual, postmenstrual, is she perimenopause, if she's not going to go menopause, those sort of things. So,
yeah, and I can attest for people that are listening. You're very serious. You're very passionate about all things health. You're very well researched, which is evident on this podcast. So, if somebody's serious about changing their life around, you want to get in better health. Maybe you want to help your immune system because we're in the middle of, all the COVID craziness right now. Roberto can certainly help you with that. Roberto, if they're interested, how do they get in contact with you?
816-405-7703. And my email is rwpsports@yahoo.com. If you go to Facebook also, you can friend me on that. Just look up Roberto Parker. I also have a Facebook forum. It's called Innovative Sports Training, Health and Fitness Forum. I don't have the link off the top of my head. Just go to Facebook and look it up.
Uh-huh.
I'm also on LinkedIn. If you just go to Roberto Parker. I'm also on Twitter, which I don't use very much, but I'm on that too. So I mainly use Facebook and LinkedIn.
So if somebody says, well, I'd like to work with Roberto, but I can't find him, they're just being lazy because you're everywhere. You're out there everywhere.
I am omnipresent.
Yes. Whoa. Wow. That's a bold assertion there. I love it. And you're an omnivore, if I learned anything from this podcast. All right. Well, hey, why don't you give them your phone number one more time, and then we will call this an episode.
816-405-7703.
All right. Hey, Roberto, again, thanks for sharing your knowledge. Thanks for the passion you bring to these topics and for all the help that you give to all the people out there. Much appreciated, folks. Thanks for tuning in once again to the Health Detective Podcast. We'll be back with another episode in a couple of weeks. If you have any questions, give Roberto a call, reach out to him on Facebook, and we will talk to you soon.
All right, guys. God bless. Take care.
You too.
Thanks for listening to the Health Detective Podcast with Roberto Parker. You can contact Roberto at 888-405-7703 or by email at rwpsports@yahoo.com with any comment or question you may have. Join us next time for the Health Detective Podcast with Roberto Parker. The Health Detective Podcast with Roberto Parker has been a KCTK production, produced by Roberto Parker, Chris Whiting, and Paul Lavoda. All rights reserved. For more information and content, email us at kctkradio@gmail.com.